Originally made for mobile and now ported to PC and on Steam, 2112TD has a retro 1990s classic Command and Conquer aesthetic that I absolutely adore, or KKND is the other one that jumped to my mind. And it's not just going back to retro and back to basics in terms of the aesthetic, it's the actual whole design of tower defense takes it back to basics. But in doing so, it means that it's highly strategic, whereas a lot of other back to basics tower defense games feel mindless and you're just waiting for the waves to end. In 2112TD, you only have 4 towers: the machine gun, the flamethrower, the artillery, and the plasma turrets. And each one does different types of damage to different types of enemies. So the flamethrower is great for small batches of enemies. The machine gun can be upgraded through different level ups to be able to tackle flying enemies. It's the only one that can do so. The plasma is able to take on some real big hitters and make some big damage, but don't have particularly big radial effects, so they have to be kind of walking nearby. Whereas the artillery is best to attack from afar, but can also do an EMP pulse that freezes things in their place. Your actual base itself becomes a kind of 5th turret in a way, because you can pop on a machine gun on top of that, which is really handy because in some levels they plop your home base in the centre of some crossroads, and you don't necessarily want to spend too much money putting on turrets all the way around in different locations immediately, because you've got too many waves of enemies coming at you, and so using that upgrade turret is super helpful. The other thing that you've got, very traditional from a TD perspective, is a couple of attacks that you can use that are not passive abilities or passive upgrades, they're like full-on aggression. So the first one is to be able to do an airstrike, and that's upgradable. The machine gun, as I said, is also upgradable, and so is a drone that can run around between different turrets and then fire missiles like a clicker game. However, its secondary function, which becomes much more apparent towards the end of the campaign and the nightmare mode of things, is that your turrets can actually be decommissioned by some scary alien-looking aliens, but also this giant boss-like creature who can just blow up your turrets. And so the drone can put on a shield that stops that from happening, and that can be really crucial, because sometimes you don't have the money to be able to replace stuff, certainly not to the highest standard that you'd already built a tower up to. Money is dropped throughout killing of different enemies, so far so TD, but it's one of those games that just is well balanced, and you don't get this very often from budget tower defense games. Quite often you can kind of spam some upgrades or pay to win, and then you kind of are able to overpower things. Here, everything is highly strategic, and although overall your towers can be upgraded through XP and leveling up, you can get most of the way without having to do too many of those upgrades, because strategically you can make things work. There are 3 different difficulty modes. Normal and hard are available as soon as you kind of unlock a level, and it's recommended to kind of try and do both of those as you go through, because that will help you with nightmare mode, which is where things really are quite chaotic and very difficult to beat. Here it comes down to pinpoint precision of where you put your towers, but also at what point you trigger not just the aggressive abilities that you have, but when you level up a tower to its full potential, they have actionable special attacks too. So that EMP pulse, for example, is one. There's a lightning gun from your plasma attack. The flamethrower can have like a flame cannon that spews out flames onto the road, but it can also pour out like jet fuel and set that on fire as well. The machine gun can have these kind of lobbing bombs that can be sent up to kill specific high flying enemy bosses as well. So just lots of things that you have control of and have big recharge as you go. The other thing I really liked is the fact that most levels have these barriers that you can pull up on certain parts of the level to stop enemies breaking through. And although those walls will fall and then need recharging again, it can help you stem the flow of different streams of enemies so that you can tackle things in different ways if you want to. All of this comes together to make a game that's more than the sum of its parts, and I've spent already quite a few hours getting through the campaign, and now I'm playing through the Nightmare mode, but also Survival mode, which is just the most extreme version of the game possible. You will die eventually, and I'm quite happy to say that I've been getting to like wave 40, 45-ish before I keel over. But yeah, there's a lot here for you to enjoy for a couple of pounds. So for me, this is one of the best or better tower defense games that's come across from mobile to PC, because of the way how strategy is always in the balance and you have to really think about where you put each tower. Written review will be over on highplanegames.com. Take care. Higher Plane Games is part of the Higher Plane Network, a completely independent media outlet supported by people like you. The goal is to create the best possible content that cultivates a richer indie scene for games as well as music and entertainment. To find out more and to get involved, visit patreon.com/Higher Network. Your support makes all the difference, and in return you'll gain access to bonus content and downloads. Thank you for watching.